Hi, I'm Karen Tate, and welcome back to our Goddess Calling audiobook series. Today's message is called Goddess Notices. I hope you enjoy it. As I prepared to write a book on sacred sites of Goddess in Turkey and consider leading another tour to Anatolia, our land of the nourishing mothers, my mind returned to our last trip to a rural and out-of-the-way place called Pessinus. Pessinus was sacred in ancient times as a center dedicated to Kybele, though her temple remains hidden beneath the sands of time and is as yet undiscovered by contemporary archaeologists. This telling of my time in Pessinus might all sound trivial, but I remember feelings of sacredness there, presented in surprising ways. Although we didn't find Kybele's temple, I believe I felt her there. It seemed her essence was alive in the people and the energy of the place. Burned into my memory were the kids playing with their cows, adorning their heads with costume jewelry, jumping on their backs, talking to them, or walking them down the main road, not much more than a mud pathway. It was obvious this was just a daily occurrence, this joyous and playful interaction with their cows. As a city girl, I marveled at seeing the cows responding to the kids like my cat would when I play with her at home. There was a special relationship there between humans and beasts, calling to my mind the goddess as mistress of the animals. That was not the only thing I remember about walking down that muddy road in Pessinus. What caught my eye and became seared into my memory was this old crone sitting in her doorway. She silently watched the kids, the cows, and our entourage looking for the essence of Kybele. The old woman was dressed in what we Westerners might call a costume, though I suspect this was her native dress. She wasn't there selling anything or trying to make herself visible in any fashion. But there was something about her gaze. It grabbed me and seemed to follow me. Though it was years ago, it feels like it was yesterday. Don't laugh, but I felt as if she was a conduit to Goddess, or Goddess in human form even, overseeing our pilgrimage. I had this sense that our visit was not going unnoticed. Fast forward to a few years later, and it happened again. My husband and I temporarily loaned a statue from our personal collection to the Goddess Temple and Cultural Center of Orange County in Irvine, California. One Saturday night in June, under the fullness of a supermoon, the newly installed, larger-than-life-size statue of the Egyptian lion-headed goddess Sekhmet was consecrated before the public. She was welcomed to her new home by a packed house of women and men. High atop her 4 feet tall, pyramid-shaped base, Sekhmet dominated the room in regal splendor. It was hardly a surprise. During the instant of her unveiling, smoke alarms suddenly went off and lights began to flicker, leaving no doubt to all assembled she was definitely in the sanctuary. Simply put, we believe Sekhmet noticed our devotion and let us know she was in the building. The evening was filled with music, singing, dancing, drumming, and recitations to dispel the disinformation about her most well-known myth, a patriarchal myth perhaps designed to cause women to be feared or women to fear their own power. Sekhmet, a solar deity known today to help women and men transform and empower themselves, is rising at a crucial time in our history. Have no doubt she is on the rise as people strive to find their strength, tenacity, passion, creativity, and courage, what I like to call their sacred roar. Some readers might not know me well yet, but I don't have these kinds of feelings often or casually. I'll admit I tend to be more left-brain, leaning toward being more skeptical, and I question everything as I struggle for balance with my right brain. I don't allow myself flights of fancy. Pessinus in Turkey, however, felt more potent to me than a lot of places. That veil between past and present, goddess and mortal, felt a little thinner. Certainly at the Goddess Temple of Orange County, Sekhmet was with us. And finally, there was this third validation that Goddess notices. Practically to the day, I was notified John Hunt Publishing accepted my proposal for this very book. My beloved husband had a heart attack. I rushed him to the emergency room of the hospital, and within the hour he was having surgery. In those surreal moments of confusion, fear, panic, shock, and worry, I got on the phone and called the women in my circle of friends to enlist their prayers, and of course I prayed too. Roy came through the surgery fine, and that first night he was in the hospital, I went home to try to get a good night's sleep and prepare myself for the caregiving that was ahead. I dreamed, and surprisingly, I remembered the dream. And here it is. I was in a large, cavernous room full of women. The energy was chaotic, and their voices were garbled and loud. Then from nowhere, a woman whose face I didn't recognize approached, and I knew her to be an Isean priestess of Isis. She put 3 coins in my hands, not the metal variety, but the more ancient clay or terracotta type. On them were engraved images of Egyptian goddesses and gods. As I gazed upon them, the images became colorful and began to move. In my mind, I heard the words, "The gods are activated." And I knew Goddess and the divine masculine, perhaps Thoth or Anubis, or even Jesus, heard the prayers of the women in our community. Again, I was reminded the great She hears our prayers, and I'm sharing this with you so you have no doubt that she notices. Thank you for listening to the Goddess Calling audiobook series.